all day. How do you spend your day?
I am busy with my children all day. I try to help to clean house and wash diapers, and little bit cook, play with children outside.
Marina, did you love Lee Oswald?
Yes, I love Lee and I study him.
You what?
I study.
You're sorry for him?
Yes. Because he died very young.
Do you visit his grave still?
I visit him in grave every week. One time or 2 times a week.
Indianapolis Media proudly present to you the Lone Gunman Podcast with your host, Rob Clark, where research comes to shine and myths don't die. Stay tuned, be right there.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to episode number 83 of the Lone Gunman Podcast. Today I got a great show for you. I talked to Carmine Savastano. He comes back on the show. We're going to be talking about the Walker incident mainly today. I played you that little clip of Marina at the beginning, and it will become clear in the podcast why. But just to dispel any questions off the bat, I just wanted to illustrate a little bit of Marina's English ability. Now, this interview you just heard, a piece of it, was conducted 3 weeks after the assassination. That's it, 3 weeks after the assassination. But she needed a translator for questioning and her testimony to the Warren Commission some months later. It sounded to me like she knew pretty good English for being in the country not very long. Is that odd? Maybe. But we'll get into that more in the show. But I just wanted to explain why I was playing that at the beginning of the show. Because I said I would in the podcast. So, anyway, that's it for this little intro. I just wanted to cue you up on that. And hope you enjoy the show. And without further ado, I bring to you Mr. Carmine Savastano.
What's up, everybody, and welcome to the Lone Gunman Podcast. This is your boy, Rob Clark, with my special returning guest this week, my good buddy and proprietor of the Neapolis Media Group and author of the upcoming book, Two Princes and a King, Carmine Savastano. Welcome back to the show, my friend.
How you doing, Rob? Good to be here.
Doing good, buddy. And today, Carmine joins me here today, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Oswald allegations when it comes to the attempt on General Walker, and looking at the aspects of some of this stuff. And here recently, Carmine, I was in a kind of a newer group on Facebook run by mostly lone nutters, who seem to think that the case against Oswald is ironclad. I mean...
yeah, they do sometimes, don't they?
and you know what I asked them? I said, okay, look, tell me just give me your best piece of evidence against Oswald, and I guarantee you that I will cast some kind of a doubt on it. And nobody gave me anything. They said that I was ducking somehow. So this...
Well, no, yeah, I think that the problem is that there's two types of criticism, as you, I, and pretty much anybody in these groups knows. There's reasonable criticism, which is rare, and then like you said, they were just saying you were ducking because you didn't conform to the way they wanted you to think. So reasonable criticism, I think we need more of, and what you're saying is reasonable. It's not like there's any specific part of the case that is rock solid. We can say that some things aren't likely based on the evidence, and we can say that some things aren't likely based on what the politics of it is. These guys, I think, on both sides need to drop the politics. What evidence do you have? Prove what you can, claim what you like. But don't say that it's ironclad unless you can prove it's ironclad.
Yeah, and that's what I asked for. I said, give me your best piece of evidence. If you say to me, well, it was Oswald's gun found on the 6th floor, then I can, quietly point out all the problems that, was it really Oswald's gun? Was it ordered in his name? No. Were they the right rifles ordered? No. And so on and so on. Can we believe Bill Frazier? No. So, there's, and then, if they say, oh, well, his fingerprints were on the underside of the barrel or something like that, but
yeah.
Why didn't they find him on the trigger?
It doesn't explain the short timeline that they have for him to do everything and come up with a plot. It still doesn't explain how in 24 to 48 hours he was somehow able to pull all this off, get the rifle into the building, and then reassemble it with no tools while not being observed.
Yeah, and they take for granted certain facts of the case that they think are undisputable. Like somebody asked me, okay, well, if Oswald didn't take his gun to work that day, well, then how did the gun get out of Ruth Payne's garage and into the 6th floor? Well, they're assuming that somebody else could have taken it, or how do we even know it was in Ruth Payne's garage, to begin with? We don't. There is no rock solid evidence that it was.
You and I have discussed, too, the gray areas. A lot of people, unfortunately, don't want to consider that they might be wrong partially, that we have, where most people, I think, are, who are reasonable and they're willing to consider evidence from either side, and then we have the fringe members of both sides who think that Oswald's either completely innocent or completely guilty, and either one of those is very likely. He either has some minor complicity or maybe some major complicity, but that doesn't mean he killed anyone. It doesn't mean he ever fired a shot in Dealey Plaza.
Yeah, his actions, we were talking about what went down in the theater when he was arrested. I think it was some guy asked, well, why did Oswald hit an officer if he was innocent? And I'm like, really? Well, if you look at the picture of Officer McDonald, he has a big scratch on his face. That's it. Okay. Oswald had a ring and a bracelet on at the time. And if you're just a guy, either innocently sitting in a movie theater or believing that you got set up and were there to meet somebody, and you're surrounded by 10 cops who want to arrest you, and you don't feel like that it's right, you might resist a little bit.
Some people can resist.
Officers get scratched in scuffles trying to arrest suspects. It's nothing new. It's been happening for eons. Somebody bopped the shit out of Oswald on his head and in his eye, and they got him out of there. It's when it comes.
Just because someone resists doesn't mean that they're guilty. It just means that they resisted.
Yeah, he was the one screaming police brutality. So, and I said you got to look at the mindset of these cops going into the theater. They think that they just got the guy who killed one of their brothers. You know what I mean? On the force, they're going to be pissed.
Yeah.
They're not going to be careful, and they're not really going to care about Oswald's his well-being. But it's just oh, go ahead.
I was going to say this. Yeah, essentially, and we need to remember too that Oswald wasn't the only person arrested that day. A lot of people like to focus just on Oswald because that's who the commission decided to say was the suspect, but there were other suspects too. They tried to get Frazier to sign a statement that he had some sort of complicity in it. They tried to get Donald Wayne House and other people, before and after who they were bringing in as suspects. And then once Oswald emerges, then everybody else goes away. But that doesn't necessarily mean that they don't have any connection. That just means that the police decided to drop all the other leads and go for Oswald.
Right. Or they were told that's the direction things needed to go in. Because here's the way the lone noter has been rubbing me lately, is when they asked, they want to know, well, you tell us what really happened then if the official story didn't, and I'm like, look, nobody's ever going to know exactly what happened, in Dealey Plaza or in the school book depository or in custody. But what I can tell you is, if you're saying that somebody's guilty, then it's up to you to provide the evidence that proves the allegation that this man is guilty. It's not up to me to prove that he's innocent. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And that's the way things fall into court.
Officials failed to do their job.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you're calling a man guilty...
It's not incumbent upon all of us. I'm sorry, yeah, you were saying?
Oh, I was just saying, if you're calling a man guilty, then you have to have the evidence to back that up. And I don't think, if given that Oswald had a good lawyer, that he would have been convicted in court of anything.
No. Well, and that's the whole thing that a lot of people who support the commission fail to realize, is the only reason the commission, besides it being an extraordinary creation of a president and being headed by the head of the Supreme Court, which basically marginalizes the Supreme Court, it used lower standards in the creation. It used civil standards, not criminal standards. Criminal standards is beyond a reasonable doubt, which is the highest standard. With civil standards, it's just a preponderance of evidence. Well, if all you allow is the evidence that supports your thesis, then chances are the evidence is going to support your thesis. And all the evidence that was hidden from them. I mean, the commission, a lot of people want to blame the commissioners. It's not the commissioners' fault. They were lied to as well in most cases. Now, Dulles, yes, I would put some blame on Dulles because he knew some of the things that the rest of the commissioners were lied to about. But there was a cover-up. I mean, anyone who goes, no matter what you think happened or who killed JFK, facts were hidden. Officials suppressed evidence for decades. That's plain. All you have to do is look at the evidence, and you can see the Castro plots, the plots against Patrice Lumumba, giving William Harvey sanction to hire assassins. All that happened, and all of it was hidden from officials by officials.
Right. Yeah, I mean, the Warren Commission is just a conclusion of a couple people cherry-picking evidence from 26 volumes of evidence to fit into 800 pages. It's that best fits what they want us to believe happened. It's their best case scenario based on their cherry-picked evidence. But as we know, and as people before us have known, if you actually go and look at the 26 volumes, there is a lot of evidence in there that does not point to Oswald. And it's not included in the official, report. A lot of stuff is left out. And that's the reason why, a lot of these early critics were on this thing. And that's the reason we're still doing what we do today, continue to look into this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, even if you just consider one little portion of it, imagine just the witnesses that were in Dealey Plaza. We don't have an accurate full count. We don't know everyone that was there. And they didn't even interview a majority of the people that were in Dealey Plaza. Of the hundreds of witnesses in the Warren Commission text, a lot of them are experts and are peripheral witnesses, not people from Dealey Plaza who might have seen something.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that they could have easily done at the time is when they got these affidavits from people, take their picture and attach it to the affidavit. Because, I mean, to this day, do we have a clear picture of who Jack Doherty was?
No, I think I would really be impressed to see some, because I know a lot of people, hundreds of people, that have been looking for pictures of him for years on the internet, and no one has found. They've found pictures of his brothers and his relatives, but I haven't seen a picture of him.
Yeah, I mean, and that's just one example, when it comes to, everybody in Dealey Plaza, it would help in identifying who people were, where they were, and that's just there, that's not including everything else,
And then you got all the people that say they were there, that we know in a lot of of cases they weren't.
Right. You know, a lot of these people that you know, were interviewed in New Orleans and things like this, in Mexico, and these Cubans, and it'd just be nice to have an official, you know, photographic record of people who would testify before the commission, but we don't have it. We don't even have audio recordings of people testifying before the commission. You know, little things like that. It's just,
yeah,
they could have done, you know, a lot better job. And, you know, I know the time they were crunched for time. You know, as far you know, to put that thing out and to compile all that within less than a year is a pretty substantial feat for anybody. But you know, I think they rushed it a little bit because, I mean, they were still last minute in a lot of stuff, even into September.
Yeah. Well, and they had the press to contend with leaks coming out every once in a while. You've got the CIA and the FBI trying to influence the press. They're trying to influence the commission to say that, you know, that it's Oswald. That's, you know, even before the report's done. I mean, Hoover 2 days later, he was ready to write a report. You know, Johnson didn't even want to go with a commission. He wanted to go with Hoover doing 2 reports, one on Oswald, one on Kennedy, and that's it. Everything goes away. And it was because of Katzenbach and Robert Kennedy and others who influenced the public to support a commission that a commission came about. But Hoover hated the commission. Hoover thought of it as an adversary because he just wanted to put out what he thought happened, and it was over.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I mean, if we could go back in time, and if something would have happened differently, you know, if the Warren Commission never was, I mean, could you imagine that? If there never was a Warren Commission and we had to go off of DPD and FBI only?
Exactly. Well, what Hoover might let out. Imagine if it would have just been the 2 FBI reports and everything just got sealed.
Yeah, because Hoover loved to talk. But all right, so let's get into what we wanted to talk about today, and that's, you know, another of these allegations of against Lee Harvey Oswald, that he took a shot at General Walker in April of '63. And when you go back and you look at the timeline of things, I believe that Lee Oswald was. Wasn't he supposed to be in Louisiana at the time? Or am I wrong?
When Walker was shot at? Well, I think that he was living in Texas at the time.
Okay.
He was living in Texas at the time, but because April '63, I think he went in the summer to Louisiana. I think you're right that he did go later that year.
I think it was like a week. Yeah, it was a week after the Walker shooting is when he left Dallas.
You know what? You might be right. Yeah, maybe it was like late spring, just before summer.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. So yeah, this is supposedly right around the time, and I would imagine that some people have tried to infer that that's why he left.
Right. Time to get the hell out of town, right?
Yeah. You know, but I would think that we could also explain it with. He already had family in New Orleans that he could depend upon for at least a couple loans from his Uncle Charles. You know, he was trying to seek work there, and he decided to, you know, for whatever reason, and additionally, if he did have some connection, whether or not, you know, I don't believe people should be saying that he definitely was CIA or he definitely wasn't. I think that's another gray area. He could have been. He could have also just been a dupe used by a member of the CIA or used by a CIA informant.
Right.
So for whatever reason, he chose to relocate, and while he's in New Orleans is when he really starts ginning up to try to put on his communist veneer. You know, he says that he's supporting pro-Castro, handing out the leaflets, getting in the fight with Bernier, having already gone before to Bernier, trying to infiltrate his group, where Bernier thought that he was an FBI penetration agent or a communist.
Yeah, Bernier was a little upset with him after he saw him handing those leaflets out.
Was it planned? Because then they did the debate after that.
Yeah, everything was just a little too tidy. And, you know, and looking back, you can see you can see Bill Stuckey and Ed Butler were part of these groups, these right-wing groups, and these anti-Castro groups, and it just makes you wonder with everything else going on down there, how legit it was.
Yeah, and they're all reasonable questions too, because it turns out that Bringer was working for the CRC, which was funded by the CIA.
Yeah.
We have direct connections to people all around Oswald throughout most of his time in America, either having the CIA or FBI connections. Even his aunt Lillian Moret was telling the FBI about what he was up to.
Oh yeah, and you can tie him to training these anti-Castro Cubans at Lake Pontchartrain. That's somewhat of a CIA operation, probably low level. But this is the kind of stuff that they were doing.
Yeah. So that I think could explain his leaving Texas as much as anything. That he would ever, and even if it was all, once again, I suppose one of the saddest variations could be is that Oswald kind of delivered himself into the hands of the conspiracy. That he was friends with some of these peripheral guys, and he was trying to emulate them, and he basically worked himself into a corner.
Right. Yeah,
I mean, any of it's possible.
Yeah, some people even try to say, that, well, if Oswald was indeed the one that took a shot at Walker, that it might have been some kind of an orchestrated plan to draw sympathy for Walker and, get his name out there. And because, let's face it, Walker was running for president in 1964. He had plans. He was going across the South and making speeches and going to rallies and drumming up support. And what better way to make other people believe that you're some kind of an important threat than an attempt on your life, And that's not saying that Oswald did it, but
definitely to turn public sympathy. That's what I think the first document reflects is basically it's an FBI report that infers the German press was informed by Walker about the alleged Oswald shooting before Morena Oswald commented about the Walker incident and before the Walker letter was discovered by the Secret Service and given to the DPD.
Right. Now this Walker letter is supposedly, was it written in Russian?
Yeah, it was written in Russian, very good Russian, which is strange because Oswald never demonstrated to have very good Russian writing. In fact, some people said that he had trouble even reading Russian. And so when they wrote letters, they wrote to Morena in Russian, and they wrote to Oswald in English.
Yeah, well, seeing Oswald's English, he wasn't too damn good at that either.
Mm-hmm.
So, which leads somebody like, it leads you to believe that maybe somebody that like, Payne or DeMoreshield might have wrote that. Because,
or even Morena.
Yeah, or even Marina, but the thing is, there wasn't any fingerprints found on that, was it?
Nope. No, that's another one of the documents is the letter. The FBI did a latent print examination on the letter, and here's the strange thing. What officials said is they said that the letter was written by Lee Oswald, was read by Morena, and then was stored away in a book where it was found later by the Secret Service. Now, 7 unknown fingerprints were present, but neither one were Morena or Oswald's. So how is it that these unknown fingerprints are on it, yet their fingerprints are not, if they were the ones who composed it and read it?
Right. And they probably didn't even test it against the Paynes or anybody else.
Nope. Once again, another venue, another avenue they could have taken for investigation that they just let go. Another problem with the letter is there's no mention of Walker shooting at him, his home, nor any specific time or action. It could have been for anything. He could have written it years ago and stuck it in a book.
Right.
And it was, once again, another piece of evidence that they needed to mold to try to fit this Oswald image they were building.
Well, another thing that kind of adds to that is supposedly another image from the Imperial Reflex camera taken of General Walker's residence on Turtle Creek in Oswald's possession. Found among his possessions after the assassination. But we don't know whose camera that was, because by all accounts, Oswald didn't own that kind of a camera,
Yeah, no, I know people have disputed that he owned it.
Yeah, because I was listening to it was a Black Op a couple weeks ago, and this guy Jeff Carter, he did a four-part article on Sitka about the backyard photographs and talking about the camera, and that it was like a top viewfinder, like you didn't put it up to your eye, you kind of look down into it, and Marina had always said, I just took the picture like you normally take a picture, and she kind of mimicked putting it up to her face, which there's a problem with that. And then of course how the camera got found, like the Paynes gave it to Robert Oswald, who found it in a box a couple months later, miraculously. And but Lee had a Russian camera, and he couldn't find film for it, and he had a different kind of American camera. I can't remember the name of it, and supposedly a Minox, a little spy camera. But the kind of camera that took the backyard photos and the photo of General Walker comes from this Imperial Reflex camera that we don't know the provenance of. So, if true, it is odd that Oswald would have a picture of General Walker's house in his possession, don't you think?
Yeah. Well, the thing is that because they didn't verify much of this. These objects that were taken, when they were taken, who took them, the chain of custody gets broken. So it leaves all these questions that necessarily some might be valuable and, some not. But they once again left a black hole as far as the, as you said, the provenance of some of the evidence. They're assuming that it belonged to him because it was found in the box in the Payne's garage. But it could have just as likely belonged to other people as well. Once again, that's what like you said, we're never going to, it's possible, I hope maybe in our lifetimes, but we're probably not going to know all of the exact answers, but we probably can't put together a preponderance of evidence enough to distinguish what some of the major answers are to show people that largely, like I said, I support that it was a feasible conspiracy. I don't think that it was a huge one, as some people on the fringe do, where it's an entire agency or an entire government. I don't think that it's that. I think that it's a small group, and chances are they manipulated the evidence, and a lot of the manipulation, the cover-up that we all know happened because of other reasons. Most people were not doing the things they did to hide President Kennedy's assassination. They were doing them to protect themselves because they had done other illegal things they didn't want found out, like Hoover and McCone and Dulles. Right,
they were covering their own asses.
Yeah.
And one other interesting aspect to this whole General Walker thing is, of course, if you go back and you look, and if you believe what DeMorenshield says about the events that happened at this Magnolia party in late February, when that guy Volkovar Schmidt was trying to work Oswald up into a lather over 3 hours of telling him how evil General Walker is, and how much of a bad influence he's going to be on on things. And I think George DeMorenshield tells a story of going to visit the Oswalds. I think it was might have been a couple nights after the Walker shooting, and kind of making a joke, oh yeah, was it you, Lee, that shot at him? And he kind of, things got kind of awkward there for a second, and I think his wife Jean actually saw the rifle in a closet. And after this little meeting at the Oswalds, they kind of laughed it off, and after that, the DeMorenshields left for Haiti. just weird, like DeMoore Shields said that he had always felt guilty, for taking her to that party, and then because apparently it was him and this Schmidt guy's idea to get Oswald riled up about General Walker, and then they were kind of mortified to find out that this guy could have possibly been the one to shoot at him. If we can believe what he said.
That it's impossible. It is possible that Oswald was involved. The problem is the evidence. As the stuff we've discussed so far. Another thing with the letter was the letter doesn't emerge until early December. And that's after this first document that we were talking about, that it shows that the German press was talking about Oswald shooting at Walker in March. In November 25th and 26th.
Right.
Before Morena even tells the commission. And that's another thing, is that a lot of this relies on Morena just affirming what their deductions are.
Yeah, we know.
She doesn't necessarily give a ton of background. She just sort of goes along with what they deduce.
Right, and we know the problem with that being that, she was threatened with deportation. And
her children could be taken from her.
Right, so it's understandable that she would go along with whatever they told her to say. And we have we have a lot of evidence of that.
And in the early interviews with FBI agents too, she's interested in, do they like her? They're not going to send her away. And, I don't know how much of it. She's an interesting character because, there's different sides to her. We have her at one scene seeming like the supportive wife, but in some of the early interviews, she's basically throwing Oswald under the bus. She's not just going along, but she's saying that, I think the government has all the evidence they need, and I don't think, she just wanted to get it over with and get the hell away, I think, from the whole situation as well. And then you've got people who are advising her who have official connections. So...
I think the FBI was kind of looking at her too as being, some kind of a possible agent. They were because of her little honeypot deal in Russia, and these defectors bringing back Russian wives, and then them turning out to be spies, which is not out of the realm of possibility. But I guess when you're looking at stuff like this, it's just odd to me, like Ruth Payne, for instance, you have her claiming to wanting to harbor, Marina out of the kindness of her heart and, learn Russian from her, when in reality, Ruth Payne already knew Russian, was teaching Russian. And, we have instances, and one that I'm going to play at the beginning of this show, where Marina, a couple weeks after the assassination, is speaking some pretty damn good English, but yet she needs translators when it comes to talking to authorities. So the whole damn thing's just odd. And I think I actually read Ruth Payne was actually paying Marina $10 a week plus free food and boarding and all that to supposedly teach her Russian while she stayed there, and that Ruth Payne would pay for her medical, food, stuff like that, plus give her $10 a week. But I think it was more of maybe a mutually beneficial design where, maybe Ruth got to sharpen her Russian and Marina got to sharpen her English, and also, drive a wedge between her and Oswald. And, that whole thing needs to be looked at more. But let's get back to the General Walker thing for a second. You were mentioning some of the evidence. Let's talk about the bullet.
Okay.
From this supposed, that was dug out of the wall there.
Now, the Walker bullet, there's, of course, like with everything else in this Walker allegation, there's some issues. The first issue with it is the commissioners were discussing privately in an executive session that the DPD report, which was not complete, stated that they had no clues regarding the assailant for the Walker shooting. The discussion turned to they called it a mashed bullet, which only one expert said could have been fired by Carcano. So no full identification was reached by the FBI, and the commissioner said anything they could work with from a ballistic standpoint was lacking.
Right. Yeah, you kind of need striations. You kind of need, rifling patterns to match it back. And, of course, they didn't have the rifle at the time to match it, too, really. But, it's...
And they wanted it to match the Carcano, but unfortunately it didn't.
Right, it did not.
There couldn't be a definitive match. So that's another piece of evidence in this, that they're assuming that it could, it could have also gone to another gun.
Yeah. I mean, you can't make it exclusive to a Carcano just based on metallurgy.
Mm-hmm.
Now,
so, they were even guessing where, like you were saying, the rifling, the point of fire, they were guessing where it could have come from based on this, hole, and we don't even know that that's what occurred. We don't know when the shot occurred. Did it occur prior? Did the shot, was the deflection, a lot of assumptions occurred just to go along with the Walker story. And another, sticking to the bullet, another problem with it was the FBI did spectrographic analysis of it, and the bullet fragments did not have matching alloys to the Kennedy bullets. So this would suggest that the ammunitions were separate, and we know that Oswald didn't have a bunch of separate ammunitions.
Right. Unless he was using somebody else's rifle, which you can't prove either way.
Yeah, or somebody else was firing.
Right.
And, it was blamed on Oswald because that went along with whatever story whomever might have been firing wanted to weave.
Yeah, I mean, we don't even know for sure that because all we have is General Walker's version of events. If he was even sitting at the desk at the time that the shot was made.
Mm-hmm.
He could have went outside with a gun and shot through the window, and then done all this little charade himself.
And I'm sorry to say, but his time in mental review, his arrest for inciting a riot and getting people killed and injured, he wasn't the picture of credibility that people have tried to use him as in painting this picture of Oswald.
Right. But I think, I don't think he was that mentally unstable. I think he just had a lot of extreme views on things. I mean...
Oh, yeah. No, I don't think he was a fool. I just think that he was so obsessively committed to his causes.
Oh, definitely.
That he allowed them to overtake his sense.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with that. Because, you don't get to be a major general in the army for, being in Looney Tunes and shit, but...
Yeah.
I think he was very, like you said, committed to his views, and no matter how twisted or what we may view as wrong views when it comes to segregation and communism and but he wasn't alone back then. There was a lot of people that did not want society to be integrated. They did not want, or they did not want us to have friendly relations with Russia. This damn pinko commies and this and that. And there was a lot of powerful people committed to making sure that didn't happen. As we can see, from the assassination of JFK and Martin Luther King, and various other happenings going on.
Yeah, I think that. Oh, another thing I wanted to say too about so if we have him feasibly, if the German newspaper is correct, as the FBI seem to think they were, and which I don't think is outside the realm of possibility, we'll then have another document which kind of backs up that first German story about Walker telling them about Oswald before officials even knew, and it's a telegram to Dean Acheson, the Secretary of State, or Acheson, and it's from Undersecretary George McGee talking about the accuracy of the German press covering the events in Dallas the week after the death of President Kennedy. So there's no reason to dispute the accuracy of what the German press was saying. You know, it was reliable, and they were getting information from halfway across the world then, in '63, with some serious accuracy, because they had people on the ground, and because they were interviewing people like Walker.
Yeah, and, you know, it's hard to pinpoint exactly when Walker believed that it was Oswald who had shot at him. Because, you know, in later years, in various letters to other people, he would make the assertion that he had, from his sources, that Oswald and Ruby were picked up, the night of the attempt on his life by the Dallas police, and turned loose on orders from the Kennedys. Now, where he got this information from, I don't know.
Yeah, that seems like tying all of his enemies together in a nice package.
Yeah, I mean, but, you know, it doesn't have to be true. Somebody could have told him that, and if he believed it, if he had believed it, that's because of all the stuff that the Kennedys had done to him, you know, when it comes, you know, telling him to step, you know, he needed to step down from his post in Germany, and, you know, locking him up in a mental institution, and, you know, just doing stuff like that, you know, poking the bear. You know, if somebody had told him that, you know, it's kind of a good motive.
Yeah. It's a motive to definitely not like the Kennedys.
Yeah.
And then, so, okay, we covered the letter, the spectrographic analysis, that the commissioners had definite doubts about it, that the German press was fairly accurate, and that Walker had given. Another thing with Walker giving the information before the American press gets it is it also feasibly taints the jury pool as soon as it hits the press. You know, and it also is a source, even though it only is the credibility of whatever Walker claimed. It becomes a source for later press.
Right. You know, once the cat's out of the bag, it's hard to put back in there. Even if it's not accurate. And then, you know, other evidence such as this Russian letter, this mysterious Russian letter, that can be attributed to and applied to the General Walker shooting, even though it might not have anything to do with it at all.
And I totally support that, because there isn't anything specific in the letter that ties it to Walker. Then we have the problems of Robert and Morena claiming later about a supposed Nixon attack that Oswald planned. And even the commissioners and the staff didn't believe that. Like Redlick and Jenner didn't believe Morena or Robert Oswald about anything about the Nixon claims, because none of it makes sense. Like that she was able to restrain Oswald in the bathroom.
Yeah, I was talking to Will a couple months ago about the whole Nixon thing, and he kind of looked at it, and you know, they didn't even investigate which way the door opened up there in that apartment, and it turns out that the door actually didn't open into the bathroom; it opened out of the bathroom. So the idea that
he had momentum with him.
Yeah, I mean, the idea that this little 5-foot Russian, slightly built, you know, waif could hold in, you know, this pissed off Oswald, murderous, intended Oswald, is a joke.
A guy who could fight multiple police.
Yeah. I mean, it's a joke that any woman that slight could hold a man in a bathroom. It's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
But so things like that, you know,
that leads you to question, in my opinion, what are the other things she might have exaggerated about over the course of her testimonies? Not to say, you know, and then I'm not trying to attack Morena. I'm trying to say that, one, we know for sure that nobody's memory is 100%. So that's why, you know, when people say that they know exactly every detail, usually that's not the case. We know that there were instances of her both supporting and basically throwing Oswald under the bus. So there was variance in the things that she claimed. And that happens with a lot of people in the case, but with her especially in the beginning and later years. You know, as where she seems to go along with a lot of what the commission's doing early on, later she becomes tougher and starts to say that it's not true and that it was pressure and other things.
Right. I think once she started realizing that that this whole Warren Commission fiasco was not actually a court case, so to speak, but it was more of a faux investigation, so to say. That she, in later years after this, when she realized, there was never going to be a trial, never going to be anybody else charged with this, that she finally opened up. Once she got comfortable in her life, once she married again, another American, to basically, because she got married a year and a half after Oswald was killed, which pretty much cemented her, I guess, citizenship again, which probably made her a little more comfortable in the fact that they couldn't deport her. They couldn't deport Marina Porter, a little play on words there, but
yeah, she did receive quite a bit of financial and moral support from the American public. A lot of people felt bad. And sent her donations after Oswald's arrest and Oswald's death.
Not to mention movie deals, book deals, this and that.
There's still people trying to interview her.
Oh yeah, to the tune of, and she was charging a lot for interviews back then. In magazines and papers.
Well, that's the thing. She got a business manager after all this happened.
Right, not for very long, but it was in that period of time that she was signing a movie deal, or TV rights or whatever they called it back then. I'm talking to the tune of like $125,000, which back then was a hell of a lot of money.
Yeah, which was probably like $500,000 now.
Yeah, not to mention the hundreds of thousands that come in donations and pity money and.
Another interesting group of letters that get sent to is Ruby. Ruby gets hundreds of telexes and Federal Express messages about good job after he killed Oswald.
Yeah. He's probably just sitting in his cell crying into his telexes.
Yeah. People just congratulate women and men. I've read a lot of them, and they're kind of disturbing how everybody was sort of rah-rahing that he had murdered Oswald.
Yeah, well, there was even a Dallas cop I saw recently, just a little while after the assassination, that was interviewed on TV, that was praising what Jack Ruby did. Just craziness. Sure, be a vigilante, Don't let justice work. So I think that's unfortunately that's just the whole emotional, and it exists on both sides. There is an emotional tinge to this whole thing that I think a lot of us can get past it, but some people can't. And unfortunately, it affects the research, and it affects how they treat other people who disagree with them. They treat them, more emotionally rather than. We'll have to admit anything is possible at this point. We've definitely narrowed things down. There's been thousands of researchers over the decades that have contributed, and there, have been myths that have been created that hopefully get dispelled as time goes on, and there have been all sorts of things that have happened. But ultimately, it's going to be the cold, hard facts that are going to, I think, lead us down the best path. Right. Yeah. And getting back to what we're talking about here, I saw, I guess it's been a little while, and I might have talked about it on the show before, I'm not sure, but there was, the HSCA turned up a flight, what was it? What do they call those things? A flight plan? Where you have to, say where you're going and who's on your plane and this and that. Yep. From David Ferry, and it was dated the day before, was it a day or two before the Walker shooting? I think it was the day before. From New Orleans to, it might have been, I don't know if it was Dallas or somewhere in Texas, close to Dallas. I don't have the document sitting in front of me, but interesting that his passenger manifest had the names of Heidel, Lambert, and Diaz. Now we know Heidel is of course Oswald, supposedly, and Lambert is Shaw, and Diaz is, who knows, maybe one of the Diaz-Lance brothers, or I don't know. Or just code name for somebody else. Yeah, and I guess I'm not sure how they turned this up, but yeah, it's just interesting because I was thinking, that's why I messed it up earlier when I was asking you if he was supposed to be in New Orleans, but he was supposed to be in Texas already. So if we have a flight plan from New Orleans to Dallas with Heidel as a passenger from New Orleans the day before, I don't know. It's just one of those things that makes you scratch your head and wonder about.
Yeah, that's another possibility.
Because, it's definitely David Ferry flying from New Orleans to, Texas the day before the Walker shooting. And it's interesting, these names that he has on his passenger list. So,
Yeah.
It was probably just a little small, shitty four-seater plane, nothing fancy. Just one, another head scratcher.
Yeah. And it's surprising, too, that they would because Ferry was flying, during those years when he was having trouble with the law, for the problems with minors that we prior discussed.
Oh, yeah. I'm sure he had access to some kind of a small, little four-seater plane that he could have easily flown in and out of there. And that's not to say that, just because we have the passenger manifest listed there, that is actually who was on that plane.
True. He could have, substituted other people, even, doubling someone else's name for who actually was on there.
Yeah. Say, we'll just use the old Heidel alias and the old Shaw alias and just another interesting tidbit, and the timing of it is what caught my eye. It is April 10th.
That it's right before.
Yeah. Just another odd curiosity to throw out there.
What I was going to say is I think something that ties all these together is we have the problems with the bullet, we have the problems with the letter, we have the problems with that the charges or that the allegations were issued before the commission even knew about them, so theoretically they could have just been a rumor from Walker and evolved into what eventually became the narrative. Then finally we have all the witnesses. Now, in Dealey Plaza and other places, there's contention amongst the witnesses, so people have two sides, and one side isn't necessarily, definitively correct. In this case, all the witnesses do not agree with it being Lee Harvey Oswald. No one identifies Oswald. Of the two witnesses that I wanted to discuss today, one is Robert A. Surrey, the other one's Walter Kirk Coleman, and neither one, and they see people before the shooting and after the shooting, so no one actually sees the shooting, so no one sees who shot, so no one knows for sure that it was Oswald. It is an assumption. And then they see two men in both cases, so before and after the shooting, it's two men, not one man, which infers a conspiracy. It is a plot. It is a plot of more than one person.
Right. Because as we know, they were supposed to make their getaway in a vehicle, and Oswald didn't drive.
Nope.
Or have a car.
Which is another problem. Someone has to provide that car.
Now, did they provide a description of the car?
It was general. They didn't give. I do not believe they got license plates. Coleman. Where is it? Yeah, Surrey said that he was in the... I'll do Surrey first. Robert A. Surrey, he observed two men get out of a car, walk up into an alley, Walker property, the auto. At this point, he went to their automobile, he checked the rear of the car, and observed there was no license plate on the rear. So Surrey saw no license plate. And he observed nothing in the car that... he said it was a 1963 Ford. Now, Coleman was, between 9 and 10 p.m., he was walking with his godfather, Ronald Andres, and they were putting shelves in Coleman's room. That's when he heard the noise. He looked in the parking lot, saw two men in the back of a white or beige 1950 Ford hurrying towards the driver's side of the car. And then the other person got in the car, and neither one of them is identified as Oswald. There's no the 1958 black over white two-door walking direction away from the entrance. The other man went to a 1958 black over white two-door Chevrolet sedan.
Huh.
So we even have, men before getting into the car together, afterwards getting into separate cars. But this also could have been people coming in and out of, because it happened right outside of the church.
Right.
The church was right by Walker's house, so it could have been people coming in and out of the church mixing in as well.
Yeah, or just other people that lived around there that, coming and going.
But yeah, we never see Oswald on the scene. The only people who put Oswald there are Morena in some of the earlier versions, and the commission believed, based on what Walker and others said, it was Oswald. But we don't have any confirmation. We don't even have confirmation it was his weapon.
Huh. Now, I was trying to remember, and I want to say that he did, but I can't be 100% sure without going back and double checking. In Ron Lewis's book Flashback, The Untold Story of Lee Harvey Oswald, I think he said that Lee Oswald admitted to taking a shot at General Walker. Now, this is, of course, Ron Lewis, who we're talking about here, but if his story is true, who knows? Because, Lewis was saying that Oswald was hell-bent on getting somebody, and he thought that Oswald was going to actually kill one of the Longs that was running for governor back then, but it never happened. And he admitted to seeing Lee with his rifle headed somewhere. Yeah, but I can't remember what his General Walker thing was. I might have to go back and check that out.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of people speculating. You know what I mean? And it's the whole what you and I and Chuck Ocelli have talked about, the brush with history. We've got the people who try to make it a bigger story than what actually occurred.
Right.
It's possible. I just think that there's not a lot of evidence for it. You got a lot of people who said that you've also got the people who said that they saw Oswald practicing, that the commission even admitted later that none of them were verifiable because it wasn't him. Either the gun had different characteristics, or the person didn't look like Oswald, or the person was driving in a car, or the person actually shot because they had firing practice, unlike Oswald, which there is no proven firing practice with the Carcano.
Yeah, kind of like the people that saw the rifle up in the 6th floor window, and it doesn't match a Carcano either. So.
Yep. There's a lot of problems, and not to say that I think some good investigation was done. It's just not. It seems the most important moments when it isn't. The things that the case turns upon seem to be the things that were abandoned to just lay the blame at Oswald's feet alone and move on. And, we've also got the political influences trying to make that happen. We've got Johnson that is making Earl Warren burst into tears because he's calling upon him to serve again like he did in the World War to save his country from a nuclear war that could happen if it gets blamed on the communists.
Yeah. Yeah, it's just a little melodramatic there, but that's the kind of tactics that they employed back then. Because I'm pretty sure Warren was hell bent against doing this thing.
Oh yeah. Yeah, you're right. No, there's a staff meeting where the notes from the staff meeting talk about how not only was Warren against it, but the other justices recommended that he didn't do it either. And I think that it was because it marginalized the Supreme Court. And it held off other investigations from occurring until the Church Committee and the Rockefeller Commission happened.
Well, yeah, it was all a big dog and pony show anyway, because very rarely did Warren ever get involved in actual witness questioning or things of this nature. It was mostly left to the council and junior counsel to deal with. Mm-hmm. We know he didn't actually write the report. He's basically a figurehead. That's probably how they sold it to him. They said, look, you don't really have to do anything here, but, except put your name on it. Put your name on it.
Exactly. We just need your name and your credibility to lend to this problematic investigation.
Right. Sorry if it destroys your career, but...
well, he did retire 6 years after.
Yeah. Impeach Earl Warren.
Oh yeah, Walker. There's another John Birch Society movement to try to impeach Earl Warren for allowing desegregation to occur.
Yeah, I mean that's what Ruby was alluding to in custody, and even with his Warren Commission testimony, when he actually talked to Earl Warren, he's like, "Look, you're not safe here. You need to get me back to Washington. Is this what happened? I'll tell you whatever you want to know." And he mentions John Birch Society by name. People that he was scared of. So, it's not out of the realm of possibility that these were bad dudes back then. It's just hard to quantify the hold that they had over Jack Ruby. That one part of it has always bugged the hell out of me. What sphere of influence they had could have had over Jack Ruby.
We're talking too about all the various, pressures that were being put upon people, not just Warren, but all the way down to Ruby, to Morena, and, what benefits were they getting from it? Like Walker, ultimately from all of this, gets the press, he gets the sympathy, because supposedly he was attacked. He gets some sort of importance, as you were stating earlier, that he is an important leader because he's worthy of killing, so he must actually have some sort of importance in the political spectrum. He gets to push the John Birch Society's crazy agenda, and he gets the personal satisfaction of knowing that he is going to go down in history as helping establish what little bit of a motive they could put together is that Oswald was some sort of extreme crazy who shot at important people.
Right. Yeah, I mean, even like with when I was talking last time about the organization and stuff, and like people like Stanley Drennan and these West Coast guys, were writing about Walker and what a great leader he would be for the movement. Not too long after he was, attempted to kill. I mean, we're talking, a week or two when Stanley Drennan is writing this letter that General Walker needs to be the figurehead of, the movement. He did end up running for president in '64. Granted, he lost. But, he did have political ambitions, and we know how that goes, Yeah,
he ran for governor of Texas, too, against Connolly.
Yeah, lost that, too. So, he didn't quite have the majority support, but he did have a lot of the other, the fringe. Yeah, exactly.
But, yeah, Walker, and I think, he also made claims that couldn't be substantiated afterwards too. Like there was one newspaper article where he was claiming that there's a communist cell active in Dallas in '64. That were trying to undermine the government. So yeah, he definitely had his agenda, and no matter whether it was true or not, he stuck to it.
Oh, most definitely. And we'd be remiss if I didn't mention again, Carmine, this gigantic tome that I've been pouring through recently, General Walker and the Murder of President Kennedy by Jeffrey Caulfield, who Doug has had on his show, and he's going to have 2 more shows with him coming up in the next 2 weeks. So look out for those if you guys want to learn more about what Caulfield is saying about General Walker and the new evidence that can be tied to all these extreme right-wingers and hate groups. And we know that a lot of these hate groups.
Rob.
Yeah.
Sorry, broke up for a second. I was just checking to make sure you could hear me. Yeah. I was just saying, a lot of these hate groups kind of filter down into society, to which we can even see on the Dallas Police Department, and we see cops wearing KKK badges. And a lot of them are probably John Birch Society members as well, or Minutemen. So this kind of thinking is not out of the realm of possibility. So if you want to check out more, be on the lookout for Doug's next 2 episodes. Go back and listen to the first one.
because Caulfield did put a lot of work into this book, and he should be heard. So definitely check it out. So Carmine, did we get to everything, or you still got one or two there?
No, that's everything. We covered all the documents. I think that, hopefully the listener will have a look at some of the ones you post up, and hopefully they enjoyed the show and they can see the large evidentiary holes in all the Walker allegation.
Yeah, and not just that, but with everything else, there's a whole lot of holes.
Oh yeah.
That are either there or can be put there by hard work and research and documents. And like I said, you gotta check this stuff out for yourself, and don't just read somebody else's book or read somebody else's work. Take the time to look into this stuff for yourself, and check out where the truth lies. And it's also important to see, or to keep tabs, I guess, what other people are saying and doing. So Carmine, are you going to be going to the conference in New Orleans next week?
Is that the JVB Judith Baker Conference?
Yes.
No, I will not be going.
Oh.
I saw some of the ads for that, and boy, oh boy, do I not want to go.
Hey, look, if you can
not
make...
that I think they'd let me in anyway, because, I like evidence.
I was going to come pick you up in Ohio, man, if you could have met me there and we could take a trip.
Oh, man, yeah, no, I'm sure that's going to be a nightmare of a gathering.
Oh, my gosh. Yeah. So, anybody out there that makes it to the JudyCon 2015, and shoot me an email and let me know what you thought of it.
Survivor stories.
Yeah, I'd be more than interested. And if anybody's going, they would like to be a correspondent for the Lone Gunman podcast, let me know. Because I got some questions for people down there you might want to pass along for me.
Do you mind if I do a few plugs?
Plug away.
If you get a chance, please stop by tpac.com, tpaak.com. It's twoprincesandaking.com. There's updated articles. We put out at least one research article every month, and we have a primary evidence collection with lots of new evidence and evidence that I myself have come across and offered to various sources. Also, please check out Minneapolis Media Group. That's NEAMG.com, and that is a collection of related media. You can find a Lone Gunman podcast archive there, the Ocelli Effect with Chuck Ocelli in an archive there. You can find articles from myself, from other researchers such as Matthew Chauvel, Trish, Jack Gendro, and Trish Fleming. And we try to keep updated with as much information and relevant news articles that are coming out.
Awesome. And the next time you're going to hear Carmine on this show, we're going to finally be talking about the book, Two Princes and a King, because it should be...
Hopefully by the end of next month.
You got that countdown meter on your website yet?
Nope, don't have it yet. I want to make sure, me, I want to make sure I'm willing to go a little bit longer if I have to, just to make sure it's more accurate.
I hear you. So head over to tlgpodcast.com for all relative links for what me and Carmine talked about here today. I'll post up links to all the documents we talked about. Maybe the flight manifests we talked about here. Some cool stuff. So make sure you check it out, and feel free to tap on the donate button and buy your boy a cup of coffee. I'd greatly appreciate it. And make sure you check out my friends, Doug Campbell over at the Dallas Action, Chuck Ocelli on American Freedom Radio, and Will Hart over at JFK Primary Sources. That's www.ht. Oh, I just fucked that up. http:// www.j or man, I just really fucked that up. I'm gonna have to edit that out. Primary sources. Shit, I fucked it up again. www.primarysources.wix.com/home. Don't worry, I'll clean that up in the
no problem.
in the aftermath. Sometimes things get twisted. Oh my God! Well, he's got the longest URL in the history of the world.
Yeah, it is a seriously long URL.
Yeah, but he's redoing his website. I'm gonna have him on the show here soon.
Cool. Yeah, no, Will's cool.
Yeah, no, he's revamping the site and making it bigger and better and easier to navigate. So I'm gonna have him on the show. We're gonna be talking about that hopefully next week. Actually, I guess that is it for today. The countdown is on. We're ramping it up to the anniversary, and nothing but big shows planned from here on out. Big topics, big shows, big guests. So check back early and often. Subscribe on iTunes if you like. Check me out on Stitcher, Spreaker, Acast, Podcast Network, Tangent Bound Podcast Network. Pretty much anywhere you can listen to a podcast, you can find me. I think I'm there. So check it out. Stay tuned, and thank you for tuning in this week. Thank you, Carmine, for coming on the show. Everybody go check out his stuff at tpaak.com. Check out Neapolis Media Group on Facebook and Twitter, and make sure you subscribe and like and do all that and share links. This sumbitch is in the can, beamed up the satellite down directly to your ears, people. This is your boy. Peace.